This quote right here, it really gets to the heart of it. This is the raw frustration you could hear on the streets of Kathmandu. It's the voice of an entire generation that feels completely and utterly betrayed. So what we're going to do in this explainer is dive into this incredible story of how a protest that started online with digital rage just exploded into a nationwide crisis that actually toppled a government and has put the country's entire future on the line. And this is the part of the story that's just wild. I mean, think about it. One day they're burning buildings. The very next, they're out there cleaning them up. How does a movement go from firebombs to brooms? From total outrage to, well, reconstruction, practically overnight? It tells you so much about what they're really after. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, you've got to separate two things: the spark that lit the fuse and the massive fire of anger that had already been smoldering for years. So here's the spark. The government suddenly bans a whole bunch of social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, X, you name it. The official reason? They said it was to stop hate speech. But for Nepal's youth, whose lives are basically lived online, this felt less like a policy and more like a gag order. It was like the final insult from a political class that just doesn't get it. But let's be real, the social media ban wasn't the real reason people were so angry. It was just the final straw. The real fuel for this fire, it's been piling up for decades. We're talking about massive government corruption, no jobs for young people, and this feeling that you can only get ahead if you know someone. For them, this wasn't about losing an app. It was about losing their future. And things just exploded. I mean, look at this timeline. It was unbelievably fast. In just 1 week, Nepal goes from a controversial new rule to the entire government just collapsing. That kind of speed tells you just how much pressure was building right under the surface. And this wasn't just some abstract political drama. Real people got hurt. There was a devastating human cost. We're talking at least 19 people killed, most of them young, and hundreds more were injured. It's just a tragic price to pay. All right, so after all that chaos, after the violence, and after the prime minister was out of the picture, the movement did something that nobody saw coming, a really symbolic turn. The change was just, wow. You have the very same young people who are just clashing with police, suddenly out there on the streets with gloves and masks, sweeping up the debris, even at the parliament building that had literally just been on fire. It's such a powerful image, right? And look, this was way more than just a photo op. It was a message. They were basically saying, hey, we don't just want to tear things down. We're here to build something better. And it seems like even the authorities kind of got that message, seeing it as a potential peace offering. Okay, so the old government is gone. Great. But that creates a huge new problem, right? A massive power vacuum. So who's going to step up and actually lead the country now? The protesters knew exactly what they wanted. Their demands were super clear. They're like, okay, first, dissolve the entire parliament. Second, every single lawmaker has to resign. Third, hold people accountable for the violence. And fourth, we need new elections with new rules. They wanted a total system reboot. But, it's one thing to agree on what you're against. It's a whole other thing to agree on what you're for. And this is where we start to see the first cracks in the movement. Two main names pop up as possible interim leaders. You've got the judge, Sushila Karki, who apparently has the army's support, and then you have the engineer, Kulman Gissing, a super popular guy who famously fixed the country's power outages. It just goes to show you, tearing down is a lot easier than figuring out how to build back up. Now, we need to zoom out a bit, because what's happening in Nepal isn't just about Nepal. It's all playing out on this giant geopolitical chessboard, and some very big players are watching very, very closely. Remember that social media ban? Well, here's a really interesting detail. While they blocked all those other platforms, one app was mysteriously left alone, TikTok, which, as we all know, is Chinese-owned. So why? What's going on there? The government's official explanation was pretty straightforward. Oh, well, TikTok followed our local laws. But come on, a lot of people are looking at this and seeing something much, much bigger at play, a strategic tug-of-war for influence between China, the US, and India. So let's just lay it all out. You've got China, who's all about its Belt and Road Initiative and keeping a friendly government in power. Then you've got the US, trying to counter China's influence with its own big money projects. And then there's India, right next door, worried about its own security and stability in the region. Three major powers, all with a huge stake in how this whole thing turns out. And India did not wait around. They immediately put their massive, long border on high alert. I mean, any kind of chaos in Nepal could easily spill over, messing with their economy and posing a real security threat. It really just shows you how high the stakes are for the entire region. So that's where we are, at a total crossroads. The big question now is, who's going to write the next chapter for Nepal? Is it going to be its passionate young people, the powerful, quiet military, or its giant, influential neighbors? Right now, the answer is completely unwritten.